on basics of research methodology, organized by Department of English, Government, Digvijay College, Rajnandgaon, in collaboration with Indira Sangeet Vishwavidyalaya, Khairagarh. Before starting today's sessions, I would like to invite Mr. Chandan Soni sir for the reporting of last session. Chandan Soni sir.
Thank you, Sunil.
What to you, sir?
Thank you. Wish you all a very good morning. Yesterday, that we had two sessions, and it was the second day of our 5 days national workshop. The first session was of Dr. Somali Gupta Madam from VYT Science College, Dur, and the second one was Dr. Jyoti Patil Madam from Renuka College, Nagpur. The subject of the first talk was research. It's all in the name. And Madam dealt with almost all the important aspects of planning a research, right from the selection of the area of study, author, and books until the writing of the final thesis. She also gave us insights about writing research papers. We learned that while research writing, we must ensure that the idea of our paper or thesis is crystal clear. The language that we use should be simple, and we should avoid using jargon. Madam also focused on the very first step of research, that is the selection of the author. We should select the author that is close to our heart, because we have to be with the author for a very long time. In fact, for the rest of our life, I can say. She introduced an entire list of new areas prevalent in the present time, like gender studies and interdisciplinary areas, to name a few. Most importantly, Madam advised that our research should be useful for the society and it should have an impact. Topic for the second session, online use and latest style citations in literary research. I feel that for all the new researchers, the biggest and most difficult challenge is the challenge of correct documentation. So this lecture was an answer to all the problems of citations with the help of digital equipment. A complete package of digital equipment required for research writing, and all the do's and don'ts we came to know in the lecture. And we got answers to so many questions, like how to start writing a research paper, how to arrange our thoughts, how to document our research using digital tools, how to find the perfect journal suitable for our paper, how to check plagiarism, like various tools helpful for that, and how to arrange the references and bibliography effortlessly. And how to get finally published. So many new things we came to know about in the second session yesterday. For those who would have missed the session yesterday or day before yesterday, we have the YouTube link, and they can log in to YouTube and watch them again. And for those who have attended, it is useful because certain things we need to listen again and again. And today we have respected Dr. Madhu Kamra Madam and Dr. Anil Srivastava sir as the keynote speakers. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope session as well.
Thank you very much, sir. For today's sessions, we have two keynote speakers. For the first sessions, we have Dr. Madhu Kamra ma'am, Professor and Head of Department English, Durga Mahavidyalaya, Raipur. And for the second lecture, we have Dr. Anil sir. And for the second session, we have Dr. Anil Srivastava sir, Professor of Zoology, Government VIT PG College, Durg, Chhattisgarh. Yes, ma'am is not joined yet. We are moving ahead soon.
A very good morning to all the participants and respected faculty members, research scholars, students, and our speakers to this virtual workshop on basics of research methodology. This is the third day of workshop, and during last 2 days we have had uh, great scholars of repute, uh, Dr. Prantik Banerjee sir, Dr. I.D. Tiwari sir, uh, Dr. Somali Gupta ma'am, and Dr. Jyoti Patil ma'am, and they have had wonderful sessions on the topics. Dr. Prantik Banerjee sir spoke on Are You a Paper Tiger, and his deliverance was simply brilliant. Dr. I.D. Tiwari sir spoke on meaning and objectives of research. He spoke in detail and depth about the meaning and objectives of research. Dr. Somali Gupta ma'am, she spoke research, it's all in the name. It was a mesmerizing deliverance by Dr. Somali Gupta ma'am. Dr. Jyoti Patil ma'am, she touched a very relevant and important topic, that is online tools and latest style citations in literary research, which was very beneficial for all the researchers and aspirants. So we had 2 days which were full of knowledge for all of us. Now, today we have the first session of Dr. Madhu Kamra ma'am, and I request Sunil to conduct the program further. Sunil.
Thank you, ma'am. I welcome you, Dr. Madhu Kamra, ma'am. Uh, she is first speaker of the first session. For inviting her, I would like to invite Satyavit sir to introduce ma'am and invite her for her lecture. Satyavit sir.
Thank you, Sunil sir. Good morning, everyone. I'm Satyavit Singh Rathore, a research scholar from Government Digvijay PG Autonomous College, Rajnandgaon. It's my pleasure and honor equally to get this opportunity to introduce our esteemed speaker of the day, Dr. Madhu Karma ma'am. She is a professor and head of the Department of English, Durga Mahavidyalaya, Raipur. She holds an experiences of 36 years of teaching and also completed her PG diploma in journalism and mass communication from Madurai University, along with different till date. If I talk about her publications, she has published 54 participation in approx 50 seminars, webinars, conferences, workshops at the national and international levels. Now, I would like to highlight some of her academic contribution. Ma'am is appointed as a subject expert in Board of Studies of various colleges of Chhattisgarh and Maharashtra. The list is too long, so I have tried to give you just a glimpse of ma'am's achievements. Ma'am has been invited as a chairperson and subject expert by a number of institutions for webinars, e-conferences, and workshops, FDPs, UGC, HRDC, refresher and orientation courses. So, with a very happy heart and a high regards, I invite Dr. Madhu Kamra ma'am as a keynote speaker of today's virtual workshop. Welcome, ma'am.
It's a great thing of pleasure that Principal Sir, Dr. K.L. Tandekar, has joined our workshop. Sir, आपका स्वागत है. Kamra ma'am, Madhu Kamra
Yes.
ma'am, we welcome you to this workshop और हम सब आपके लेक्चर के लिए सुनने के लिए बैठे हैं. Very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Neelu. And at the outset, I would like to thank Satyaveer for being very generous with me and giving me a long credit of the small modest work that I have contributed.
Thank you,
I'm
ma'am.
also grateful to thank you, Beta. I'm also grateful to Shri Hemchand Yadav University for taking up many such efforts to bring wholesome knowledge to students. And for this, the present collaboration between the two institutes, that is Indira Sangeet Vishwavidyalaya Khairagarh and Digvijay Autonomous PG College Rajnandgaon, you deserve every word of applause for taking up a very pertinent topic to explore what a taker should know, what a student should know before the task of research is initiated, either for a better degree or enhancement of career or for one's own knowledge. So researching is something which has always been neglected in India, and it is not taken up with complete sincerity. The academic sincerity is something that we all should observe, and that you are trying to propagate why it is essential, in what mode it should be practiced. I'm grateful for that. My special thanks to all the participants who are here, and a very special thanks to the speakers who have completed their sessions, because they have created a very sound background and sound foundation also on which we can build up our propositions. So my topic today is all about research in new avenues. If you see the title that I've given for my deliberation, it says research in folk / comparative literature. So you all may be inquisitive to know that why I have made folk and comparative either of the two. So I would be elaborating on it much later. But first, let me build up the basic idea as to why comparative literature is much interesting, and it demands, many such serious explorations. But yes, comparative literature is far more challenging because it is very much fluid compared to other dimensions of research. And at the same time, when you pick up a research in comparative literature or folk literature, you find that the expanse of corpus becomes quite wide. because commonly either you have to take up the parallelism between the two branches of studies, or two writers in study, or it could be two characters, could be an archetypal character belonging to two different regions. So this way you'll find that the comparative literature exploration demands an extra challenge. But I promise you, it's very interesting. And at the same time, if you want to gain much, it's a kind of an investment. Where do you want to invest? Where Neelu, is it fine now? Mohit?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. So, with this, I first begin with with an option on which you can think and then decide. This I would give you with the help of an analogy. See, just take an instance that there are two friends who want to take up a pleasure trip, maybe around the world. That's one. For the say, let us take the names. I give imaginary names to them. You find that Mr. A wants to travel around the world. And there's another, Mr. B. He has a fixed destination and he wants to fly from one point to another. So his travel map is shorter compared to that of Mr. A. Now, Mr. B, you find he has certain restrictions also. He doesn't have a free hand. For example, if you say that Mr. A is traveling by Air India, he has the option of, he has the choice and the privilege of taking 25 kilos of baggage. But you'll find that Mr. B is traveling by Indigo and he is restrained to 15 kgs. Now, you also find that the one who is traveling by Air India, he has certain other benefits also. For example, if the plane is delayed by 2 hours, this would not perform like Indigo, that the entire passengers are shifted in a bus and the bus, you find, slowly moves towards the point where the plane is waiting to take in the passengers, and you find that the passengers are not allowed to move into the aeroplane. And then you find when the passengers are allowed to walk in, they are allowed to stay there, saying that there's congestion in the air, or the air traffic will soon provide us room. Please bear with us. There's another 20 minutes, there's another 10 minutes. But Air India people, you find that they will immediately provide you with snacks because you have crossed the margin of wait period, that is 2 hours. So this way you'll find that your, if I give you the names, Mr. A is what comparative literature is. It gives you complete freedom. It allows you to pick up, any topic that you wish to, if you want to explore something more. For example, if you believe that Wasteland is an elegy, you can compare it with other elegies. of the same kind, where there is no productivity, where there is infertility. Or supposedly you want to take up Emily Dickinson, that is the concept of death in Emily Dickinson. Then you can take up, death as it looms in many of the writers of Indian stream, as to what is the concept in Indian scriptures and what is the concept of death which is projected by Emily Dickinson. So that will make an interesting study. So this way you will find that this is a kind of a research where there is always a room for newness. It gives you newness for exploration, newness for literary themes, newness for gaps which are to be filled in, then for your scholastic purposes, then also for your established perspectives. For example, it helps pursue connections that are aesthetic, that are literary, that are traditional, and you find that you try to connect, and build up a larger image of how it looks at. For example, it is just like introducing a child to the study of a primer, where you find that the apple is big sized. Likewise, you find that muskmelon is also big sized, so that a child can have a larger and closer, a zoom-like focus on what an apple is, of what a muskmelon is, of what a watermelon is. And here you find that whatever the child picks up as distinctive features will be the tool that he would apply when he would take up further studies. For example, if you ask the child, in what sense this is muskmelon, ye kharbuja kyun hai? So then the child will give reasons. If you ask the child, how will you identify an apple? He would give you reasons. So comparative literature through comparison, whereby you may find similarities, whereby you may find distinctiveness, whereby you may find, the ideas are similar but presented in somewhat different way, where you find that the stock of words is the same but the nuances are different, where you find that the emotions are the same but the cohesive ties are different, and this makes the study interesting. And to begin my presentation, I would request Neelu to share my slides. Neelu, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Yes,
Anita.
I want to now elaborate on my slides. See there, what I told you in the first one, that is newness in exploration. So newness in exploration is there any issue?
Just a minute, ma'am. Hold on, just a minute.
Okay. So comparative literature is a sharper whetstone, I would say, because it helps you to refine yourself, to make your analytical tools work in a better way, with a sharper perspective, so that you can deduce what exactly you want to derive out of it. And you also find that comparative literature also puts this question to you. It makes you aware of when you try to decide what would be the research justification or what would be the research rationale. It would question you, why are you searching? Who would benefit from this research? And at the same time, what contribution you would be making to the already existing body of knowledge. So here you find that the aim of the research is no different from the other researches that you would take up in specific fields, where you find that the spectrum is not much broad. So doing research for what reasons is something that you would question as you initiate into taking up research. For example, when you take up research, you have to be very clear as to what would be my methodology, what do I want to explore, what is my forte, who are the writers that I would more eagerly look into the books that I haven't read of. For example, you'll find that supposedly you want to work on Kavita Kane. I'm taking Kavita Kane because last time when I visited Digvijay College, we had a short a discussion on this. So supposedly you want to work on the Kavita Kane, and you take up this novel that is Menika's Choice. There you find that when you read the novel, the central character of the novel, that is Menika, she is shown in two different spaces. That is, first, she is projected in Indralok, where Indra you find is the Lord, but at the same time very jealous of the celestial beauty. And at the same time, Apsara is one, Menika is an Apsara is one who is brilliant, and at the same time, she is very clear in what she wants and what she wants for what reasons. It's not that she knows her desire, but she also knows her desires with reasons. So that is something which makes Lord Indra afraid of her. Then you'll find that it happens that she falls in love with one of the Gandharvas, and she begets a child, but the child doesn't survive. And then, as a punishment, because celestial beings are not permitted to beget children, you find that the Gandharva is punished, and as a punishment, in a very tricky way, she is sent on earth. And there you'll find that her task is to seduce Vishwamitra. No? Now, you'll find that the character in the space, that the spatial dimension of the character, first in Indralok and now on Prithvilok, you'll find that the character seems to be very different. Here you'll find that this celestial Apsara is like any other human being. And at the same time, her surrender to Vishwamitra. And then her reasons, why should I now return to Indralok? Because this is what he demands. Indra demands. Because Indra has this in his mind. He's a very tricky person, very cruel. And you'll find that this he has in his mind, that no sooner Menika would announce that I'm leaving for Indralok, she would be put under the curse of a spell, under the spell of a curse. Immediately, Vishwamitra, who is known for his volatile temper, would announce something bad on her that would ruin her life. She would be cursed, with something that would be disastrously difficult for her to survive. But you find that it doesn't happen. Vishwamitra also responds in a much subtle way as she does, Menika. And Menika says that I have to go because you're forgetting your divine powers that you had earned through your penance. So it's a different story that you find that she returns and she's not her same self, but you find that she has transcended better heights than what the Lord possesses. So here you find that you can talk about, what is the identity of Menika in connection with place. So the place identity concept. You can take up other characters. For example, you can take up Shrupnakha, or Urmila, that Kavita Kane depicts, in various novels. So this way, place identity would make the character emerge. The character reading appear brilliant to you. The character identity appear very distinctive from otherwise what is commonly labeled. You don't make a plain, qualitative survey of what the character is now in the different time periods. That is, space and time goes hand in hand. Nobody lives, beyond space. Your identity, your growth, and at the same time, your achievements, they are always measured in terms of time. So here you'll find that this kind of a study will make you see the character appearing much, much different. And at the same time, it would also focus your attention on what is the concept of heaven, or what is the hierarchy of the entire existence, including the divine existence, as we find it in Western philosophy and as we find it in Indian philosophy. So, doing research for what reasons, that is important. And then you should know what would be the significance of meditation. What is it going to establish? That is, we are talking of revisionist literature, but what are we arriving at? That is, you find that Vishwamitra and Indra, they all are characters who add as foils to the making of the character of Menaka as a major. But then what are the elements that they contribute? What are the narrative signs which are used? What are the narrative tools which are there? So that would make the study more interesting. Likewise,
Ma'am, your PPT, I think it's visible now. Can you?
No, it's visible. I can see.
Okay. Okay.
Move on to the third slide there, because as you were busy
Yeah.
doing it, I could do it. So, no, it's visible. So you find that comparative literature has been defined, by various scholars, bringing out various features which gives a comprehensive idea of what it embodies and what it entails. For example, Nilu, I want the third slide.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, this is the first one. This I've already elaborated. I completed this one right now. And yes, this is what I want. Comparative literature defined. So Claudio Gullin, in the book, The Challenges of Comparative Literature, which appeared in 1993, says that comparative literature is not a new label. That is, there's been a lot of researching by comparing two texts. But the term, the coinage, the fixation of this title to this kind of a research came much later. And you'll find that this kind of a research, that is comparative research, is usually understood as supranational assemblages. Now, supranational assemblages, you find that this is a very weighty term because it signifies a phenomena in which a dialogue and mutual illumination of art takes place. Now, here you'll find that the principle is that it takes place beyond the empirical or experiential contact of national identities. That is why comparative literature is also called transcultural studies. See, because here you'll find that you're not limited to national boundaries. You find that it is also labeled as world literature. It is also regarded to be a kind of a universal study of literatures at hand. Now, there's another one, Susan Bassnett. In a comparative literature, a critical introduction says that comparative literature as a discipline has had its day. This is something which is very disappointing. See, she says that comparative literature has come to a dead end. It has reached an alley where there is no opening. Why? Now, here 1993 is something which is very significant in the sense that here we see the rise of globalization. Now, globalization demands the global life of the mind. All countries would merge into one. It demands, a kind of a wide collectiveness. So, when there are no boundaries, where would comparative literature come? So she says that all would be discourses, all would be books. Only comparison would be in thoughts. Comparison would be in ideologies. comparison would be in what a particular author says of a particular period compared with those who you rank as peers, or maybe who you rank as his predecessor or successor. So this way, you find that in 21st century, it is imperative, if I may say so, to understand why comparative literature has always been in the midst of such political activity when studied across the coordinates of space and time. Now, Susan Bassnett, I would be talking later when I would be speaking about post-colonial literature, or I would talk about as to why comparative literature still stands defeated. Now, comparative literature had its birth much earlier, but you find that it was a kind of a birth in which no cry, no sound, no jubilation was made. It was a very silent birth. It was a kind of a birth which nobody noticed. I should tell you that this was not an illegitimate birth, but it was an unknown birth. So Matthew Arnold was the first to coin the word comparative literature in English, and you find that the word appears in his letter to his sister. And the letter says, I would just give you some lines about it. How plain it is now, doing attention to the comparative literatures for the past 50 years might have instructed any one of it that England is in a certain sense far behind the continent. Now, when Matthew Arnold stated this, you'll find that the crown was the big power. The crown was the controlling power. The crown was almost on its way of becoming a superpower. Now, it's a different thing that we use superpower. We started using superpower much later. So this way you'll find that Matthew Arnold repeated the same term again when he made a lecture in the Oxford University addressing students and teachers there in 1857. So this time he says, and this is very important, no single event, no single literature is adequately comprehended. See, if you want to go deep into, if you want to collect the jewels of literature, and you want it that it should be only single effort focused on a single book, then he says that you'll be disappointed. For example, see, I find that most of my takers here are students. Just imagine that you want very high marks in your examination, but you don't want to read your sources. You don't want to read your text. What you want to read is just bazaar notes. How can you realize as to what it contains? What magical has been stored there? See, something, that Bacon has also said in one of his essays, that you cannot enjoy the taste of fresh water if you are feeding yourself on distilled water. It is just like this. Matthew Arnold says that if you want to enjoy literature, if you want to make the study of literature an ennobling experience, you cannot do it by limiting yourself to the study of only one text, single event. No, you have to study it in relation to other events of other literatures. Only then you will find that this is so interesting. Then Valek and Warren, I'm sorry that there's a spelling error here now. It is Warren. The next slide. A comparative literature is the study of relationships between two or more languages. It is world literature. So, in comparative literature, you find comparison is mandatory. It's a vital tool. Without this, there can be no comparative literature. Now, you'll find that the term comparative is derived from scientific process. That is, where you find that comparing serves as a means of hypothesis. Now, you'll find there is another thinker, Chaslis, who describes this process, that is, how comparing is done and what is the end product of it. He says, let us calculate the influence of thought upon thought. See, this my takers would very well relate it to what happens, when the mother says, no, I won't permit you to buy a new mobile. So you'll find that you have to keep on adding reason over reason, reason over reason. Maybe that there's a whole pile of it. And then finally the mother says, I'm convinced you can buy a new mobile. So in any kind of a research, and especially in comparative literature, you have to calculate the influence of thought upon thought. If Rabindranath Tagore said this, then who else said this? And what is the context when who else apart from Rabindranath Tagore said this? So this way you'll find that you are mutually changed. See, it's a very a common kind of a statement, which of course you find that Mulkraj Anand also uses, because he uses a lot of code switching. Kharbuje ko dekhkar kharbuja rang badalta hai. So this way you'll find that when you read, mutually related concepts, ideologies, characters, genre, you find that you'll be blessed with more richness, you can calculate more effectively, and there would be a perpetual exchange upon the individual nationalities. That is, for example, you have a friend somewhere in Canada. In most of your phone calls, you might be discussing about, what are their food habits, what kind of life they have, how were they coping up with the odds, during COVID times, and none other things. And this is the reason, if I remind you, that during COVID times, when everything had come to a standstill, it was Oxford University who said that they had to break the norm of compiling, enhancing the boundary, the richness of the dictionary biannually. They had to make it thrice during COVID times, because there was such a flux of words coming up, by compounding, by mixing of two words, that we call portmanteau words. So this way, you find that when two people meet, just assess, how much of ideas are exchanged, how much of feelings are exchanged, how much of maybe that thoughts are exchanged, provided you are serious about how you are exchanging and with who you are exchanging. So this way, what you find is that because two languages are never similar, and at the same time, the representation of two different lives in two different novels can never be same. For example, you go for a cinema and make one of your friends accompany you. When you come back, you will find that her response to the novel, or her analysis of the novel, or her reaction to a particular scene in the film would be very different from that of yours. Now, if these differences exist, if these divergence in attitude exists, perceptions exist, comparative literature will continue to survive, even if it is on its deathbed. Now, Next slide, please. Neelu, please move on.
Yes.
Now, why comparative literature? And why whatever content you have on this slide, this is particularly in relation to India. That is, we want comparative literature. If we want it, then do we Indians really are in need of it? I'm talking about the literatures, that as the readers of literature, do we really need comparative literature? If so, what would be the profit? See, the first one, Dr. Amya Dev, in his essay towards comparative Indian literature, says that there is no Indian literature that can only be Indian literatures. They can only be Indian literatures. See, there is no Indian literature. It should have been a comma. They can only be Indian literatures because Indian environment is perfectly congenial for the study of comparative literature, because you hardly travel, say, 200 to 300 kilometers and you have a different place where you have a different culture, where you have a different food habit, where you find that even, every single institution stands different. For example, if I move from Raipur to, say, Raja Karya, which is hardly a runoff, I think, 2 to 3 hours. And if I move to, say, Nagpur, which is a run of, say, nearly 5 hours, I find, the food habits are different, the cultural habits are different, then the way they interact, or the way they exchange hospitality, everything is different, even when it comes to writing. For example, in Chhattisgarh, you find that we don't have much of autobiographies. But if you go to Maharashtra, you'll find that the richness of autobiographies is immense. So here you'll find that the need for comparative literature is much, because you need to know your neighbors in order to have a happy living. At the same time, and happy living is only possible when you can understand. You can put yourself in the shoes of what they are wearing. Only then you would realize as to what do they expect of you. Because commonly what happens, when there's a different relationship, we make demands. We don't make the other person realize as to what do we want. So it is required that we come up with a lot of anthologies in which, different literatures of different vernaculars be incorporated, and then either they could be translated, as we have the case of Gitanjali Shri getting a wonderful crown for her a tomb of sand. So Tagore was the first one, perhaps he was the first one to realize that India needs Vishwa Sahitya. And Vishwa Sahitya in the sense that if we concentrate on the different states that we have. For example, if I want to read tea plantation literature, or if you want to read Chhattisgarhi literature, or if I want to read folklores of say Punjab, because I can understand Punjabi culture if it is given to me in English, then you'll find that we are making Vishwa Sahitya. It's a different thing. That Vishwa here means, a broad image of it, a loud image of it, a detailed image of it. And Radha Krishnan emphasized that Indian literature is a unified concept. In his statement for Indian literature is one, though written in many languages. That is, Indianness is something which is not different. So it is the ness which connects, Tamilian literature with that of Kannada literature, or Kannada literature with that of Sindhi literature. It is this way. Swagata Bhattacharya, she writes, this is a very recent essay that I had come across, comparative literature in India developed as a neutral phenomenon. That is, we did not concentrate on how this, it is just like, one day we go to the garden, we're surprised that who planted this sapling? And then one day you say that this sapling has come up in a kind of a shrub and there are flowers or maybe there are fruits. So it happened, automatically, spontaneously. Nobody defined a roadmap for comparative literature to evolve in India. And she says something which was bound to happen. That is, it is not something that happened miraculously, that happened surprisingly. For example, if it is a marriage, you know that you would be getting some delicacies. You know that you would be getting, good wishes on your D-Day. It's not surprising. So likewise, if you find that two languages are side by side, for example, where I live, I find, there are people who speak Sindhi, there are people who speak Chhattisgarhi, then Gujarati, and then I also find that they speak a lot of English also because there are Christian families also. So this way, a child who plays there will automatically pick up. And when we participate, in the functions that are held in varied places, you get a peep into their culture. You get those language-specific words which are related to those rituals. For example, if I go to a Marwadi Shadi, I know that they would be holding a Myra. But you find that if you come to a Punjabi marriage ceremony, you find that there would be a ritual like Chura ceremony, where you find that the bride would be made to wear some specific chudi, which is it's a whole lot of chudi that she wears, and that is symbolic of her marriage. Just as in other castes, you find that a Mangal Sutra is something that projects that she is now different in her marital status. So, comparative literature, therefore, is now a distinct discipline because it has been legitimized and you find that this nomenclature has been accepted. Now, the question arises that why did it happen in India so easily? And you'll find that if you look into the topics which are being registered, now for research, you find that it tells you a different story. Now, in the sense, you find that India is immensely blessed with three essential components of comparative literature. The first is influence. Here you'll find that the source, the origin, or you find that the producer has to be there. For example, Rabindranath Tagore, you'll find that he was there when he wrote Gitanjali, or when you find that he wrote, fragmented memories. Now, I'll tell you about the story of fragmented memories. First, I complete this. You'll find that the influence is there. You need to have a source, you need to have a text, you need to have a producer. The producer may be a voice there, or it may be in the form of words. So it's not that it always has to be in the oral form. Then you need to have means. And this means could be your computer when we talk about the digital literature, or it could be a person, accumulating everything and then putting it on air for others to read it. Or it could be a place where you find that the happening has been recorded. For example, if you take the novels of Anita Desai, you'll find that she talks about a plate like Kasauli. And today you'll find that if you go and visit, you can realize, that Kasauli to some measure has changed. And you can feel her affinity with that place. Likewise, you'll find that when you read, R.K. Narayan, you know that this is the place which you will not be able to locate physically, because you know that this is a fictitious place. You know that a Malgudi does not exist on map. But here is the creator, and he has created through his imagination. So imagination of a person, the person becomes the creator. So he's using his imagination as a means. So you need to have place, you need to have a person, you need to have a thing. And then when I say thing, you find that when we talk about science fiction Or for example, these days this Binti trilogy, they are very, very popular amongst children of crossover age. So you find that they can easily visualize, with different kind of spaceships. So here, Binti traveling to a different continent, somewhere in the space, in order to study what is not available uh, by the people of her age, or you find by the community to which she belongs to. She knows that these people, they don't know what is rocket science. These people, they don't know what is advanced surgery, what is laser surgery. So she wants to go to a different continent. Or for example, if you take the play by Manjula Padmanabhan, that is Harvest, you find that this man, he doesn't earn anything. And still you find that the family enjoys, richness. There's no poverty anymore now. Even though the people are not industrious at home, they're not working, because they have got easy means to earn money. And you'll find that the kind of food that they are enjoying. See, poverty is totally nullified here in this play, because they just consume a small measure of powder. And then, there are gadgets in which they sit, and whereby they stop aging, and they are transported into the world of happiness. They don't need to connect themselves with each other. That is, three members of the family, and they are in three different spaces. Even though they are housing, they are in the same room. So you find that the means, they vary. It could be a place, it could be, as I told you, a person who transports you, or it could be a thing. For example, in the poems of Keats, you find that it is the sight of the bird nightingale which makes him travel to a different world. So what is finally required is the receiver, the recipient, who would follow what you're saying. Just as I'm speaking right now, but you need to follow my train of thoughts, otherwise my words would be meaningless to you. So coming to the next slide, Neelu, what are the riches in this treasures? There are many treasures here. That is why you have riches and treasures. You have Harish Trivedi, who has written a wonderful comparative contribution in the form of the Urdu Premchand and the Hindi Premchand. See, that is what kind of writing appears when he writes for his Urdu readership. What are the names of the characters, what kind of culture he depicts, and what are his thoughts for the noble life that they should aim at. Then Hindi Premchand is different, where you find that he talks about how a girl from a high class family comes to a poor class, and then how she accepts the emotive life, how she surrenders, how does she show humanity. She is quick in forgiving. What small I should say insolence is done by the brother of her husband. So here you will find that Hindi Premchand and Urdu Premchand, two dimensions of the same personality. See, here it is compared. Likewise, for example, if you take Amitabh Ghosh, he has written a lot many novels, but he has written a lot many non-fictional books also. So that makes his personality a comparative one. That is, he has one face, that of a novelist, and he has the other face, that is of an essayist, of a thinker. Then you have another wonderful contribution by Dr. O.P. Juneja. I think most of you must be familiar with him also. Domesticated English, the language of African and Indian fiction. Now here you will find that Africa and English and India, they share, some common strands of existence, be it that of collective consciousness or be it that of emotion. So this way, this is how have they domesticated. They picked their words, but then you'll find that they have made it their own, by adding, some inflections or making up derivatives. And this way you'll find that our English has become English. And we are proud of that because we say that this is something we have contributed in making English our own. Now, we are in a state to say that we possess English because we have shaped English for our Indianness. And there's one more, which is the third one that I would like to draw your attention to. From mourning to martyrology, Karbala narratives in late 19th and 20th century Bengal. Karbala narrative. See, I tell you, I had a student. This is a very interesting contribution that one of my students had made. I think Chandan will be able to recollect this. That when we were working on new writings that were coming up all over the globe, Chandan had picked up to work on disgrace, and this student of mine, I'm not able to recall his name, he's a doctor, and he wanted to take up literature also. He got selected for the PMP much later. And you find that he worked on a Cinderella complex in Hamlet. Where you find that there's no coinage like Cinderella complex. But he believed that Ophelia wanted always Hamlet to be his savior. She was not self-reliant. She was not clear in her mind. She was very gullible. She wanted to be dictated. That is why you find that she was looking for someone who could come and take her to a world of riches where only she and Hamlet would survive. So whether that was a wrong research or a right research, that's a different issue. What I am trying to tell you that comparative literature makes a very fertile ground. And we can take up, many such things. I give you these examples in order to show whatever you have on screen, that these researchers have contributed something which is new, have contributed something that is wonderful. Right. Now, let us see why we need comparative literature. What is the demand on international level? Why this literature demand that comparative literature be pursued? Earlier we saw why comparative literature finds a very fecund ground in India, but now we shall see why we have a demand for comparative literature. Dr. O.P. Juneja announces, and I repeat, Neelu, it's the next slide. The Indians have not been able to interiorize and domesticate English to a great extent. You'll find that earlier, in the previous slide, you saw that he has written an essay where he talks about domesticated English in connection with Indian and African languages. And here you'll find that he compares. He says, Indians have not been able to interiorize and domesticate English to a great extent. And then he gives the reason. The flavor of local languages do exist, but African counterpart is more exemplary and nuanced savory. So you'll find that the local color is still missing. And you'll find that if at all this local color is added, by local I mean any of these states, any of the regions, any of the districts, which is slightly different from its neighborhood or to other places at large, they can have, the flavor of local. That is the localness in order to make literature more palatable. Without this, you will find that literature will not be as palatable as you find.
Sorry to interrupt.
So here you find
Chitra Tiwari, yes, she has unmuted her. She has muted herself. Okay, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Continue.
It's fine, dear. It's fine. So, like Africa, what does India need? India needs to accumulate its regional and dialectal narratives, which are spread, sporadically, to strengthen national identity and to create a space for it, as well as establish its existence. For example, you find that we have a number of rituals, and with those rituals, some songs are also connected. These are your folk songs. Now, of late, I find there's one particular Punjabi folk song which has been sung by a good many singers, recent singers, accompanied with a very good orchestra. So, this has become more sonorous to the ears, very pleasing to the ears. For example, I would like to say one. It is Chitta Kukkad Banere Pe. You find that there are many singers who have sung this. Where you find that a white cock has come and is sitting on the parapet wall, which is an indication. See, Chitta Kukkad Banere Te, Kashini Dupatte Wali hai. Kashini is blue color. Kashini Dupatte Wali hai, Munda Sadke Tere Te. Now, this would-be bride looks at the cock and she realizes that it has come to alarm me that today you will have to leave this house because today you will be married to Mr. Such and Such. But then this folk song also assures that you need not worry. Why? Because this boy, this groom of yours, this husband of yours would always love you, will take care of you because he is committed to you. In love, he has surrendered himself to you. And then you find that as this folk song proceeds, you find that it says, Kunda lag gaya tali nu. That is, you have fixed the latch and now you're going to put a lock. And this lock says that this girl will always be an outsider now, which is in the sense that she'll have her own family to take care of. It's not that relations would be separated. And then in the very next line, it says that those parents are blessed who have girls to contribute for procreation, for progeny, and for the universal cause of sustenance of human species. Now, this folk song, when you will find it, I'm not that computer savvy. Otherwise, I could have added this clipping to you, where you'll find that every second singer who sings Punjabi songs, especially for marriage rituals, be it in India, be it in Pakistan, be it in Bangladesh, be it Canada, you find that this is a very popular folk song, and it talks about, how a father of a groom or parents of a groom, they should be given a higher pedestal than compared to that of grooms. So here you'll find that this hierarchy, patriarchal hierarchy, or the hierarchy that men are superior race, it crushes it. It's a different thing that whether we are receiving or not. So such, nuances, such flavors of dedication, of commitment to humanity at large needs to be established in Indian literature, which you find is seen to a larger extent, richer extent in African literature. Then you also find that we need comparative literature in India because there's a clean divide between urban languages, rural languages, and tribal languages. So if at all we look into a lot of regional literature and we make a comparative study so that it quickens assimilation of the languages. जब आप हिंदी भी पढ़ रहे हैं और उसके साथ आपने उसका लिखा हुआ English well, as our students they do. They take up, paraphrase books where you'll find that Shakespeare is explained in Hindi also. On one side, you have the text, that is recto and verso part of it, and you can easily connect that this is the line which means this year. And this is the same in most of your religious books also. For example, if you want to read Atharvishish or if you want to read Argala Srot, you'll find that you have the Hindi commentary on it. And there's a lot of paraphrasing also. That is one single line, you have parallel meaning denoted and connotated. So this adds to easy assimilation of ideas. So we need that also. And comparative literature need to be studied for this reason. And then at the same time, you find that readability of tribal literature becomes very difficult. Readability of, say, Sanskrit literature becomes very difficult. Reading of German literature becomes very difficult unless and until we have it in translations. So if at all we take up, the content, the rich content, or maybe the even moderate value content in these very books, I think, our shelves would become more weighty with information. And it also, you find that this will help you to transcend the narrow nationalistic boundaries and associate with the desire to have peace and harmony everywhere on earth. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought, I was not reachable to you. So language need to be contrasted to other languages in order to add vigor to it, so that we can better our syntax, so that we can better our lexical content, so that we can better our semantic or discourse richness. And next slide, Neelu, please. So this is in continuation with why do we demand comparative literature? That is to showcase the remote themes for our massive research dependence. Commonly what happens, whatever is available on Google or whatever is contained in your Shodh Gangotri or Shodh Ganga, you find that you believe that this is the complete domain of research. It's not that, research can be picked up, the elements of research can be picked up, from anything and everything that comes your ways. I tell you, one of my students had come to me, and when she started speaking to me, I found that she was neither good in grammar nor good in understanding. And then I asked her, what do you do? And then she told me that I only read, a few of magazines. I said, what kind of magazines? She told me Hindi magazine. Sarita Mukta mein padhti hu na. So I decided that let me bank on this. That she reads magazine, why not we explore what is the content of English magazines and what are the takers, and what makes, Maria Claire a different kind of a magazine from that of Savi, or why is Femina able to survive, after such a long period, even though the reading habits are receding. So that became our domain of research, and finally she got her degree also, and she was very happy that she could learn how researching is done, because she only had her primary corpus. That is, every month she used to collect those magazines. She collected for one whole year, and that was our primary corpus on what we had to research. And there was no secondary corpus. So what I want to tell you is that try to understand as to how we have to explore the limited resources that are available. That you have the intent to research, I think that's more than sufficient. किसी को भूख लगे तो हम खाना तो देंगे ही देंगे. It's a different thing that you'll say that बेटा अभी मैं रोटी बना सकती हूँ, चावल बना सकती हूँ और एक आध सब्जी, और नहीं है तो तुम पराठा और अचार खा लो. That's a different story. But then, research dependence is something that will come only when the child is eager. And then you find that we need to identify. It's not that lesser writers do not write, mighty ideas. It's not that they do not have deep understanding of life. It's not that they will not enlighten your mind. It's not that they will not illuminate your pathways. They will. The only thing that we need is readership, focused readership. What happens, we just read. आप कोई film देखा था, you ask, why did you love that film? Everything was good. Acting was good. What kind of acting? See, if you say that Badhai Ho is a good film, you have every reason to say that a mother becoming a mother in the prime of her age is still not acceptable when the children who have grown up as adults are around. It's more of a kind of a body shaming. But then a kind of receptivity. So this thing could have come through research. So we need to organize. We need to organize our ideas. We need to organize our needs. My research, how long it is going to serve my purpose. As on the very first day, you'll find that there was a mention about it. I think Dr. Prantik Banerjee made a statement on it, that we commonly believe that the critical study is something which is the easiest way to get a doctorate. And Dr. Somali Gupta emphasized on this. We need, a doctorate for ornamentation. We don't need it for ability. Why? We are not ready to read literature in order to while away our extra time. You don't have anything, and you say you'll find that you've wasted 2 hours. You haven't done anything, and still it is fine with you. See, anything, why don't you pick up, small stories that appear in the newspaper, and then you can research on it. So India, you'll find, is rich in, as I told you, comparative literature. See, why? It's, I would like to give you a wonderful quote in this context. This is by, I think, Bird Whistle. I'm not able to recall the name of this critic who has put this. And where did I come across? I'm not able to recall. But I have those lines and I wrote something, in order to identify the source. And today I find that it's not legible to me. It's called something. It says, I like to think of it as a rope. Comparative literature is compared to a rope. The fibers that make up the rope are discontinuous. See the yarn, when you find that a yarn is being prepared, the raw material which is added to it, it can be of varied length. But you'll find that they're so well knitted together. They are first twisted, then they are made continuous, then they are made thread-like continuous, and then you'll find that the fibers are not visible. It becomes a rope. So this is how literature has to, research in comparative literature has to appear. Mingling of various genres, various disciplines, various literatures, various writers, cross cultures, cross boundaries, cross disciplines, and at the same time, cross techniques also. Cross techniques too. So a comparative literature focuses on 2 literary texts compared. Nilu, next slide, please.
Yes, ma'am.
This is what it does. In simple terms, this is what comparative literature is all about. It compares 2 texts and focuses on what is the element that makes the comparative strands in it. Texts could be similar or dissimilar. They could be, next slide, please. Yes. A text could be similar or dissimilar in areas, in forms, in trends. It doesn't matter. So this way you'll find that comparative literature is so flexible. So when you compare literary text in more than one language, you recognize the qualities of a text more extensively. See, for example, you find a dress being displayed on a mannequin. You go for window shopping and you've seen that dress. No sooner you see that, you want to buy that. And immediately you rush into the shop, you ask the price, and if you find that it is fine with your purse, it is not heavy on your budget, you give a second thought and you buy it. When you come back home, you try to fix this dress in the collection of dresses that you have. And then you realize this is good because it has this which my other dresses do not have. So in finding out what is good in the dress which you have bought just now, you're also remembering or also recalling what is the good in others. So it is a reminder. It's a reminder. And this reminder comes through investigations when you give ample room to study through contrast, study through analogy, study through influence, or study through communication. So here you'll find that literature finally is nothing of comparative nature, but a universal concept. It's very interesting to know that Goethe had used a particular term for it. If I use this name of the German writer, playwright, I think you can very easily recall that he is well known for writing the play Faust, right? Goethe. And what does he say? He says that the literature has one particular quality which is common to all branches of literature, all genres of literature, and that is mankind. So, because it deals with mankind, because it deals with what contributes to the making of mankind, the survival of mankind, the progress of mankind, or if at all we have come to a standpoint, or if you say that we are degenerating these days, it is only because of we have not studied mankind in a proper limelight. See, we could combat COVID because we were anxious and alarmed by the kind of help that was needed by those who were suffering from COVID. See, people had generously helped one another. I have seen, there were families around who would feed, even stray dogs. And I've seen, families, especially when the elders are living there, the older generation is living there, and there's no one to take care of them because their children are somewhere abroad. Most of these parents are all alone because their children have settled, in different countries, and they cannot reach their parents even when they were in distress because of the connectivity totally disconnected. There were no flights, there were no train, and people were all locked. But still you find that this element, mankind, could connect. If this continues to connect, then I think we all would enjoy writings like Wuhan Diary. You find that a lady sitting down and recording how did she feel when China was under lockdown. So now next is profits of comparative literature. Now you find that it overcomes the division between the West and the Rest. That is, you have English literature written by the native writers on one hand, and those who have borrowed this language making the rest of the world. And it traces the transformation and changes of literary genre and text across time and space. You'll find that what changes have come in genres. For example, if you take the recent plays of Mahesh Dattani, where you find the play The Big Fat City, you find that the verbal rivalry between husband and wife is taking place through SMS, WhatsApp messages. That is, the husband is at one place and the wife is at another place. And you'll find that she's a guest at one place, but she's chiding her child, at the same time rebuking her husband, and this is going through WhatsApp messages. So you find that monologues and soliloquies and asides, they have changed now. So that would be something interesting to know. And at the same time, you come to know how diverse we are globally. Yeah? And at the same time, what are the different forms, literary forms, which are spread, to different countries, and maybe that we are not in the know of it. Yeah? Now, comparative literature, you find, is no longer bound to comparison. You find that people say that it is only based on comparison. It's not so. For example, you find that The Empire Writes Back, a very profound book, which brought a revolution in colonial understanding of literary domination. You find is recognized as a product of comparative literature. This is something which is a new idea to you, because it says that the book explores literature of different cultures. It defines, the attitude of the colonizer, and at the same time, the power executed upon the colonized. And this is done in a very methodical way. So in simple terms, the book embodies post-colonial writing in comparison mode. So if this is so, then I think the same applies to Orientalism also. Now, what are the different fields of studies? I will just rush through because I find that I'm nearing my time and I haven't completed. I think I'm only halfway through. So there are fields of studies. You have, Neelu, be slightly quick with my slides.
Sure, ma'am.
This I've done here. Next is field of studies. What are the field of studies? Yes, you find that you can study literary schools, you can study ideological echoes, for example, in what way Indian Ramayana is different from Sri Lankan. Then image echoes, for example, you can say in what sense our Duryodhan is different from Achilles, or verbal echoes, for example, the incantations, the mantras, mantrochar. You find that in what sense are they different, when they're recited by those living in South compared to those living in the northern part of India. Then human models and heroes. For example, in what way Chanakya and Machiavelli, they are similar, and in what way your Cupid is similar to Kamdev. So these could be some explorations. And the first school is the American school. Next slide, Neelu. Which is the Americans, they consider this comparative literature as an aesthetic discipline, and they label it as universal cosmopolitanism. It has mainly two fields of study. First is parallelism, where you find that the writers and their works, they are not given importance, but their influence is measured. It doesn't say that this book is superior to this, but it does measure in what way the book is more rich in content and how does it influence. Then the next is intertextuality. In intertextuality, you find that you get the meaning of the text when you relate it to the other text, which is embedded within the primary text. This term was given by Julia Kristeva, and later you'll find that it was supported by Roland Barthes, when he says that the text does not reside in the text, but it is produced by the reader in relation to those texts which have been a part of the reading process through invocation. For example, you find that in case, I ask you to give a comment on Harry Plowman by Hopkins. Now, Harry Plowman, you find, is imagined as any other man physically, but you find that his body, healthy body, every organ of his body working, you find that he becomes a complement he becomes a complementary image to all other professions for which the same body is industrious. Harry Plowman, if he would not have been a plowman, maybe that he would have been a tiller, maybe that he would have been a doctor, maybe that he would have been an engineer, who knows? No? So you'll find that the creativity of God is emphasized here. So here you'll find that you can talk about, the different texts, which are they in the body of the same text, but you can correlate because you're familiar with them. Then it is the next school, which is the Russian school. Here you will find that this is regarded to be a narrow formalism. This was established in 1956. And your Indian school is much closer to the American and not to this school. So they believe that literature is a social product. So society, whatever literature contains, how we have come to this particular stage, that is the past should always be looked into them. So this way you find that you have some researchers where researches where you find that you talk about the impact of say Tagore on maybe a very a recent writer. You can talk about the impact of Walt Whitman on say Emily Dickinson, or you can talk about the impact of Rabindranath Tagore on Whitman, or the impact of Upanishadic ideas, on Rabindranath Tagore. So this way you'll find that the thoughts of the past, they are carried forward and they are regarded to be contributory to the understanding of the text at hand. Now, what are the defeating complications? The next slide, please. You find that comparative literature is always at a semantic dilemma because you're not familiar with the usage and the local color of the word, and at the same time, you may not find, the contextual meaning easily available to you. And apart from that, you find that the basic meaning of the text is something different and the relational meaning is different. So this way the meaning becomes lopsided. For example, you read a text, as you find in the case of a critical study, you frame an idea, as I told you about Khan. You'll find that on your first hand reading, Kavita Khan's Menika's choice would all be about feminism. But if you take up, how she responds to a space, when her identity shifts from one locale to another, you find that the meaning becomes different of the novel. So here, the relational meaning is equally important. Now, what is relational meaning? You have it on your screen. The relational side of a word meaning requires a minute and careful investigation into the general cultural situation of the age and the people. These are the two requisites on which a relational meaning of a word rests. For after all, what we call the relational meaning is nothing other than the concrete manifestation or crystallization of the spirit of culture. So the cultural nuances you find, they make relational meaning important. For example, you find if you read the novels of Amrita Pritam, you find that you may find that the daughter-in-law may address her mother-in-law as Buddhi. See, but you find that this may not be acceptable to other cultures, where you find that this sounds very jarring to the ears and it doesn't sound loving, right? And at the same time, you may also find that if a mother does not count herself next to her children, she is not regarded as one who is a right image of motherhood. For example, take the poem Night of the Scorpion, where you find that when the sting of the scorpion subsides, the mother says, thank God, God picked on me and saved my children. Now, this element of generosity of a mother, you find is very common no matter what text you take up. I was reading a Dogri story, it's a folk tale, and you find that the mother is there in the hospital, old lady, and her daughter-in-law comes and says that, how do you feel? She says, why have you come here? Go back home. See, your father-in-law is there who doesn't deserve it attention because he did not come with me. For 10 long years, I'm suffering from intestinal ulcer. He did not bother to bring me to the hospital. But I'm only worried about my daughter, who is now a grown-up, and she is now treading on slippery grounds. So go home. And you'll find that when the very next day, the father-in-law comes because it's the harvest time and she's required at home. So he decides that I'm going to the hospital and bring her back home. And there you'll find that she's dead. She's there on the bed. Even the hospital authorities are not aware of the fact that she's no more. She's there as a lump of flesh. There's no breath. And then immediately, when the husband comes and says, get a bureau, and bureau doesn't respond because she's dead. And he says, Chudail dhoka de gayi na. See? And you find that he doesn't even, put his hand, he doesn't even shake. Immediately he walks out and he holds his hand because he'll have to make arrangement for the corpse to be taken back home. Right? And see the contrast. The mother says, don't come. I'll manage my food. I'll have someone to give me some water. And you'll find that she's dependent on the other bed, which is occupied by a lady who has come for the surgery of renal stones. That's a Dogri story. What I want to tell you, relational meaning will make this poem, Night of the Scorpion, more weighty when you will talk in connection with this Dogri story. Or maybe when you will feel this Dogri story with much sharper intensity, then Night of the Scorpion might become more meaningful to you and your research paper may become more weighty, right? So coming to folk literature, next slide, Diana. Now the question arises, why have I clubbed these two? You find that Wellick and Warren, in their book Theory of Literature, they say that comparative literature beholds meaning in three different senses. The first, they say that they are primarily the study of oral literature. And today you find that comparative literature as a term is fading out. Why is it fading out? Because you find that we have come up with dimensions of different domains, cultural studies, then we have folk studies, then we have translation studies, and so on and so forth. Just a minute, Neelu, if I take another 5 minutes, will that be fine?
Yes, ma'am, please continue.
Okay. Thank you so much. And the second one you find is the relationship between two or more literatures. And the third one, he says, is identifying it with world literature. So we have already seen these two. And now I focus on folk literature. And folk literature, you'll find, creates a lot of confusion for us because it has different names. For example, in Bengal, you'll find that it is called Brahmi Katha. In Punjabi, you'll find that it is Pinda de Bol. And in Gujarati, you'll find it is Lok Katha, and so on. Now, our icons believe. Next slide. Socrates says the role of rhetorician. So that makes the study of folk literature important. Now, Jean-Paul Sartre, in one of his poems, Nausea, writes, how could I have written that pompous, absurd sentences yesterday? He questions himself. I was alone, but I marched like a regiment descending on a city. I believe that I'm the one who can see everything. I have got aerial eyes. See, I do not need to make phrases. No? I write to bring certain circumstances to life. Beware of literature. See, beautiful lines. He says, you know, a writer writes not because he has to give you phrases, decorative sentences, maybe parenthetical ones. He says, I just want to say that these are the circumstances with which you are surrounded, with which you will be affected or affected in times to come. So beware of literature. Next slide, please. So what are the topics which are commonly taken up these days? Academic status of Punjabi folklore. Research is being done, and I think it's almost to the closure. Domesticated English in the Punjabi folk songs. Does European benevolence exist in A Passage to India? See, European benevolence is the term which is used by Gayatri Spivak. She says, you know, if at all, for example, you know, we were given railways in India by the East India Company, but was it European benevolence or for their own need? That is to be studied. Likewise, in Passage to India, you'll find that this one is allowed to go. Dr. Aziz, when a charge, a bad charge, a nasty charge is labeled against him by that lady who is going to wed Ronnie. I'm not able to recall. Then European benevolence, that's a question mark. See, explorations in asymmetrical short stories. That is, the short stories, you know, may have different shades. As you find here, the mother-in-law is good, but they, in one of the Dogri stories, you find the title by apology. There you find that the husband is doing everything and the women becomes the inspector. Both of them, they are in the police department, and the wife becomes the inspector, and you find that they don't share even a room. But you find that after some 2 years, you know, there's a celebration in the family. Everyone comes because this lady has given birth to a baby boy. See? And this husband does not have the courage to announce, you know, that I have not fathered this child. See? And this child is a product of professional compromises. See? So, here you find that there are asymmetrical stories also. Like you find that if you read in Bengali stories, you find that you have rain, like water, which is regarded to be life-giving. And you find that there's a difference between Borsha and Bona. Bona is flood. See, the flood has come and the flood will destroy everything. So, a food for the thought, that is the dynamics of community and culinary, that's one topic. Essays in Indian history towards a Marxist perception, that is, are we commodities? If, for example, here, when the lady has made compromises, we can say that she has become a commodity for the world, and she has a Marxist value to her body, not to her skill. So literature is regarded to be a big signifier in narrative discourse, and there are capital growth signifiers. That is why you find that we have big publishing houses and we have small publishing houses, and you find that there are good many awards, you know, big money, you know, which is exchanged, you know, as a signing amount, and for the circulation of the books and for the appreciation of the books. So why research in folk? Next slide, dear. We need to identify cultural specificities, and folk does not exist in separation. It exists because we human beings exist. So you have to see what are the new renditions, you know, in folk, especially language, explore the domain of culture through folk. For example, if it is Karwa Chauth, you know, it has a folk connotation which is attached to it. That is why Satyanarayan Ki Katha, you find that it has a folk element attached to it. So this way, folk, you find, has its a temporal slot, or it can have its eternal slot. Next year, now, next slide. And here you find that I wanted to illustrate with the help of Nacha songs. Now. That is, Nacha songs are also called Nachori songs, and they are songs which are sung in solo, and you have it in question answer form. There are varied themes and situations during which they are sung, and they are very popular because of their poetical and literary qualities. I wish I could have elaborated over Pandwani and others also as to what is the domain of research there. Now, next slide, where you find that I've taken up one such song, a Chhattisgarhi song, where you find that she says, "O Didi mor piya ge pardes, na konu ave, na konu jave, na de veje sandes. Mor piya ge pardes, kakar bar mein mehndi rachawa." See, काकर बर समारव केस, काकर बर में है भात साग रांधव, पिया बसे दूर देश, न भावे ओकर बिन मोला, मोर सास ससुर के देश, मोर पिया गए परदेश. So here you'll find that she's longing for union. There's an element of romance, even though you'll find that they are in different time spaces. But see the next one. Next slide, please. चारों सखी घर के निकरेन, चारों के रूप है एक बरन, अपने अपने हाल ला कही के जाही चारों जल भरन. See, you find that there are 4 women are going to bring water. All of them are beautiful. They are talking about their plight. One woman says, "Listen, oh sisters, my husband has gone to a distinct country. Neither anybody comes nor goes, nor he's sending any message." Another woman says, "Listen, oh sisters, my husband drinks liquor. He squanders all the money in one day, which he earns in 12 months. Another woman says, "Listen, oh sisters, my husband smokes cannabis sativa, that is ganja. He goes out for 1 hour but returns after 10 hours. Another woman says, "Sisters, oh sisters, my husband consumes opium. He grinds 2 tolas of opium leaves and consumes at once." 4 women have gone to bring water, telling their plight to each other. See, so here you will find that water associated here see, they strive to make their family survive, and at the same time, this also is connected with the tears that they are shedding when 4 of them they meet. So water with 2 different connotations here. And then see how green cultural studies can be looked into this. Tarhari nari mur nari nana jara sunto. Listen, oh my neighbor, your child is weeping. Just listen. Oh, on the dark tank, a heron is flying. Just listen, flower boomings in the tank. I picked a lot of flowers full of my sari's end. I've touched so many flowers in my hair bun. My husband laughs at me and asks, "Just listen, from where did you get all these flowers? In my childhood, I made a friend. I got all these flowers from him. Just listen." So see the tenderness, two ladies connecting with each other through the exchange of flowers, and flowers which are in abundance because nobody has planted them. They are the gifts of Mother Earth, the benevolence of Mother. So this way you'll find that this local song, Tarihari Nana, which we have listened, almost all of us, which is a very common show during our a little earlier to Diwali celebration, that connects, to the surrounding, that we need to offer our gratitude to Devi Lakshmi, and at the same time make our house ready for Lakshmi to come, and at the same time be generous to the world outside. That is why you find that it is associated with Toran and making of delicacies, and then even applying cow dung at the place where you are going to offer praise to Ma Lakshmi. So on this note, I come to an end, and there are some books, on the last slide, which you should read in case you want to know more of a comparative literature. And thank you so much. I'm sorry I made it late, but I wanted to give you a full picture of it. And thank you for being very generous with me on time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you very much for your insightful, enlightening session. You have elaborately traced the right back of the history of comparative literature and how it developed so far. The beautiful line said by you, ma'am, is that the purpose of all genre and literature is the betterment and for the betterment of humankind. And it was really an engaging session, ma'am. As I can see, the participants are the same in numbers since the session started. Thank you very much, ma'am. Now I may request to participants If anyone has any queries, can unmute himself, herself, and ask questions.
Ma'am, you have opened new vistas for contemporary and for us to contemplate on comparative literature and folk literature and explain in such an interesting manner how comparative literature can make the ground fertile for us to, ponder over new thoughts and ideas to grow. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a wonderful lecture. And any queries from the participants?
You can even send me questions, if at all
Okay.
it arises even after the session, you can just mail me and I'll see that those questions are answered. Right?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Just one minute.
So once again, big thanks to all of you. And I really
Yes.
enjoyed, and it made me do a small amount of research also, so that I could recollect what at all it is. And this way, you have made handy notes for me. Thank you. You gave me the
Ma'am, we
opportunity.
learned so much. I request Satyavit to present vote of thanks to Dr. Kamra, ma'am. Anita. I request Dr. Anita Saha to present vote of thanks. Dr. Anita.
Thank you, ma'am. I feel honored to offer my vote of thanks to the very dynamic, knowledgeable, enthusiastic Professor Dr. Madhukamra, ma'am. I, Anita Saha, on behalf of this organizing team and the entire Digvijay College family, would like to express my sincere thanks to ma'am for giving an excellent coverage to the research and gave an opportunity to the researchers to dive deep into the ocean of comparative literature. Holding your hands, ma'am. Thank you so much. Every time I listen to you, I'm forced to think that very little I know, very little I have read, and I have to read more and more to get updated and to make myself capable of enjoying literature to its fullest, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your consent, your generous gestures. You always give consents whenever we ask you, whenever we need you. You are always ready to impart your knowledge. Thank you once again, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear. They leave, Neelu? You allow me to leave?
Yeah, ma'am.
Moving ahead, for the second session, I would like to request Dr. Indira ma'am to invite Dr. Anil Srivastava sir, Professor of Geology. Anita ma'am.
Thank you, Sunil. I again feel honored to present a brief bio note of a very famous professor in the field of research, Professor Anil Kumar sir, professor in the Department of Biotechnology and Zoology, Government VYT, PG Autonomous College, Durg. Sir has an experience of undergraduate and postgraduate teaching of more than 26 years. Sir has established Department of Biotechnology with UG, PG, as well as PhD programs. Sir has established postgraduate diploma in clinical pathology and diagnostic technology. Sir has been acting as a nodal officer for All India Survey on Higher Education at Government VYT, PG Autonomous College. Sir has also been a nodal officer for Chhatra Jeev positions like has received various fellowships and awards like Teacher Fellowship of UGC, Fellowship of Society of Environmental Sciences. Fellowship of Society of Science and Environment, Fellowship of National Environmentalist Association. There is also received Society of India in research 2020 sponsored. At present, under Sir are pursuing for their PhD, and Sir has a total 16 PhDs awarded under his supervision. Sir has completed 8 major projects, getting national as well as international fundings. Sir's public histories including China, Dubai, and Sri Lanka, etc. So I have just I formally welcome to give to
Thank you, Madam.
with his lecture.
You have very nicely elaborated my notes.
Thank you, sir.
And I thank you to the organizer, the Digvijay College and the Indira Kala Vishwavidyalaya for a beautiful this on the basics of the research methodology. This is the topic, the basics of the research methodology, which is most important topic in the respect to patron of the principal of the college also, and to the members of the organizing committee, Dr. L.D. Tiwari Sahab, Dr. Anita Sankar, Dr. Neelu Srivastava, Sri Chandan Soni ji, Dr. Anita Saha, and Ms. Anjali Singh. So really, I'm happy to join this organization, this platform, and to share some views regarding the resources of the research fund. The topic was assigned by the research committee. First of all, I would like to share my slides. Thereafter, I will start. My slide is visible or not?
Yet not, sir. I guess there are some issues.
Just I am trying.
Sir.
Just wait. Just I am trying. There is some issue. I think.
Sir.
Short glitch is there. Okay.
Sir, if there's any problem, then you can share your PPT in our email, then I'll be presenting it.
Sir, you can mail us if there is an issue.
Sir, kindly unmute yourself. Sir, we are not getting you. Kindly unmute yourself. I guess the microphone is off.
entire screen queuing. Madam, please check mail. I've already sent the PPT.
Okay. Okay, sir. In GDC, yeah.
Hmm?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Yes,
Got it.
yes. Probably you are controlling the platform. That's why this is the problem. That's easy. Okay, I think it is now it is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible now.
So we should move now. We have to discuss about the
Yes, sir.
resources of the funding for the research. Definitely, funding is very important point. Without funding, it is very difficult to establish any lab or to meet the need of the consumables or the travel expenses and others. So uh, we should first we should search the sources of the research fund, from where we can collect money. We can we can use the assess the laboratory and the instruments for our research work. So just we have tried to collect some information from different resources which are available in our country, but it is not enough and it is not complete. Next please. Next slide please. uh, what is the present scenario of our country regarding research grants? If if we give a bird's eye view on the R&D sector, then the condition of our country is not very good. Here, total expenditure of our total GDP for the R&D is only 0.7% in today's budget, of which the public expenditure, meaning the expenditure made by the government, is 0.5%, and private expenditure is only 0.2%. And this part, the expenditure made out by the private sectors, is very shocking. India is a very vast country. Our economic condition is not so bad. Our industrialists are also performing good, but their expenditure part for the R&D sector is only 0.2%. Yes, the public expenditure is also not good, but the private expenditure is very shocking. In the Israel, Israel is a very small country, but they are spending 4.7% of the total GDP. Just after Israel, the 4.5% of total GDP has been sanctioned for the South Korea. 3.2% by the Japan, Germany 3.0%, and USA 2.8%. Next, please. Next slide, please. France 2.2%, China 2.1%, UK 1.7%, Canada 1.6%, and Russia 1.1%. Even South Africa allocation is 0.8% for the R&D sector, and our allocation is 0.7% for the R&D sector. But another important point is, what is the total budget size of the USA? The total budget size of the USA is $20 trillion. China near about $14 to $16 trillion, and our total budget size is $2.8 trillion. So expenditure meted out by the $20 trillion and $16 trillion, and our budget is only $2.8 trillion. So definitely this part is not very good, meaning our research institution, our researchers are not getting enough fund for the research activities, for the R&D activities, for the development of the laboratory, or for other expenditures. Next slide. In India, there are so many funding agencies providing the research fund and research support in different sections of the science and arts and the commerce and the literature. There are, in today's scenario, there are two major funding agencies. One is the Department of Science and Technology, another is the Department of Biotechnology. And the Department of Science and Technology contributing near about 63% of total extramural R&D support. And Department of Biotechnology is also contributing nearly 14% of total extramural R&D supports. Previously, CSIR, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, was the biggest funding agency, but today the scenario is different. The DST and DBT are contributing more and more. We have total 225 researchers per million populations. For 1 million populations in our country, total researchers are only 225. This is very miserable. In Israel, per million, it is more than 1250 researchers. And in India, it is only 225. So definitely we have to meet the need of the society. We have to do a lot of things to fill this gap of the researchers for our country. The next slide. Next slide, please. The expenditure meted out by the state government. The picture of the state government contribution for the R&D sector is also not very promising. But in Gujarat, they are contributing 789.52 crore every year. In Tamil Nadu, 688.34 crore. Punjab, 551.44 crore. Madhya Pradesh, 37.3.48 crore. Haryana, a very small state, but Haryana is contributing 347.58 crore in the R&D sector. In our Chhattisgarh, the contribution for the R&D sector is only 257.99 crore. But definitely our state is a small state, but in comparison to Haryana, we are behind. But another aspects of the research funding and research output in our country, the publications. India ranks third as per the NSF database, fifth as per the Scopus database, and ninth as per the Web of Science database. So our funding resources is not good, but our outcome is not far behind. Definitely the publications from the China and the USA is very far better than India. But in overall ranking, India ranks third in NSF, fifth as per the Scopus database, and ninth as per the Web of Science. So this is very promising point. and it gives immense pleasure for the Indian populations. Regarding patent, India ranks 9th in the residential patent filing activities. In 2017 and 18, total 47,854 patents were filed in India, of which 32% were filed by the Indian residents. This is very good number of the patent filing by the Indian residents. Patent filing in India is dominated by the mechanical, chemical, computer, electronic, and communication science. Most of the patents are being filed from the field of the mechanical science, chemical science, computer science, electronic science, and the communication science. Very few patents are coming from the basic science and also from the social science. In India, 225 researchers working for per million populations. I have already told this. Where in Israel it is 1250. So definitely we should do something to increase this number. Next slide, please. What are common science agencies? Just we have tried to collect a database, to prepare a database or a list for the funding agency from where we can approach for the research funds. There are some common science agencies like the Department of Science and Technology, DST, CSIR, the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, Department of Biotechnology, then Technology Absorption and Adaptation Schemes, TAAs, popularly known as the TAAs, then Science and Engineering Research Council, then Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, and one white elephant is now University Grant Commissions. Next one. Next slide. In the field of the agriculture, there are so many bodies. The most of the Indian grants are being transferred to the agriculture sector, like the ICAR, Department of Food Processing Industries, Ministry of Environment and Forest, Forest Research Institute, National Academy of Agriculture Science, Agriculture Produces Fund, Ministry of Food and Civil Supplies, National Oilseed and Vegetable Oil Development Board, Directorate of Rice Research, Directorate of Maize Research, NABARD, then Agricultural and Processed Food Product, Department of Animal Husbandry, and Indian National Committee on Irrigation and Drainage. All the bodies are giving funds for the field of agriculture, in the field of the agricultural development, agriculture scientific work. And there are so many important schemes of the DST to promote the scientific activity related to the societal significance. For example, the Science and Technology Applications for the Rural Development. This is one of the program. Then Science and Technology Applications for Rural Development. Schemes for young scientific professionals. Women components plan, science and society related programs, utilization of scientific expertise and retired scientists. A special common plan, science and technology communication and popularization program, natural resource data management system, NRDMS, instrument development program, R&D, medium range, weather forecasting and crop weather relationship, then opportunities for the young scientists. Then so many other programs are being launched by the DST every year. And these are not only for the researchers of the science. There are so many programs also for the arts and literature researchers, from the researchers from the field of the arts and literature and from other branches of the knowledge. Next one. Next slide, please. Then in the field of the science, there are so many other agencies are also supporting the scientific research, like the Department of Non-Conventional Energy Source, research scheme applied to River Valley Project, research scheme on the flood control, research scheme on power, Department of Atomic Energy, Defense Research and Development Organizations. These all bodies are supporting research proposal for the development of the country and development of the society. The next slide. Okay, these are the list. Again, next slide. Move ahead, please. For the arts and commerce, again, there are some bodies for the arts and commerce. Go back, please. Please go back. Please go back for the arts and commerce section. Yes. For the arts and commerce sections, again, there are some specified research bodies which can support your research grants, like the Department of Education. You can directly assess the Department of Higher Education, the site of the Department of Higher Education. Time to time, they are inviting the proposals from different researchers. Thereafter, intensification of the research in high priority area. Ministry of Land, Rural and Technology, National Institute of Public Cooperation and the Child Development, National Council for the Economic Research and Training, Sport Development Authority of India, Indian Council of Social Science Research, Consumer Welfare Fund. You can approach, you can apply. Definitely, any researcher should give a bird's eye view on all the sites at least one time in a week, and definitely we should take benefits of any call for proposal. Normally, they are inviting application on particular time, and if you are looking all the sites, then definitely you can apply. Next one. Next slide, please. Yes. Now there are so many international organizations and international program, and in these international program you can apply for the research fund. The one most important is the International Foundation of the Science of the Sweden, then TAVAS, the World Academy of the Science, thereafter United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, Third World Network of Scientific Organization, Animal Production and Health Division, International Atomic Energy Agency, and British Council and others. These organizations are not only for the science. There is a scope for the arts, literature, and humanities also. Researchers from the schemes to get the research grant for your research work. Next one. Next. Now, one University Grant Commission. Today, University Grant Commission is white elephant. The University Grant Commission is not releasing any grants to any universities or institution or any scientific bodies. Probably the fund of the University Grant Commission has been transferred to the RUSA scheme, but the RUSA of our state is not giving any research grant. The RUSA schemes of the Maharashtra and the Odisha, they are providing research grants to research fellows and their faculties, but in our state, still it is pending, and I do not know why the RUSA of our state is not supporting us. But previously, there was so many schemes for the of the UGC to get a support for the research activities. Still, there are some scopes, but the minor project and major research project now they are not supporting. The next one. Next slide. These are the format. In this form, you can apply. So before applying any research project to any funding agency, you should make an assessment for the research proposal, prescribed research format, and you should prepare your research proposal as per the format. Thereafter, you should try to apply. But now UGC is not supporting us. Next one. Next slide, please. Again, next. This is the format of the UGC. Again, next. Again, next, please. Go ahead. Yes. Now, second one is the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. Definitely, the Council of the Scientific and Industrial is very, and they are supporting researchers. So there are so many schemes of the CSIR, like the Syama Prasad Mukherjee Fellowship, Senior Research Fellowship, Research Associateship, Nehru Science Postdoctoral Research Fellowship. Besides, CSIR, Czech Academy of Science Mobility, and Indo-Israel Industrial R&D Program. Last four, the Raman, Indo-Swiss, CSIR Czech, and Indo-Israel Industries R&D Program. At present, these last four schemes are operational. You can search the website of the CSIR. You will find that the time limit for these four schemes are already going on, and you can apply in these four schemes. This is not only for the science; they are also supporting the economy of the country, but it should be science related. The next one. This is the format of the CSIR. So go ahead. Go ahead. Again, next. Again, next. Next. Again, next. Okay. Now, Department of Science and Technology. Today, the Department of Science and Technology is most promising body to support the scientific activities of our country. And again, there are so many schemes under the umbrella of the DST, like the Deep Continental Studies, Himalayan Glaciology, Indian Climate Research Program, Instrument Development Program, International S&T Corporations, Joint Technology Project under STAC, ISSTAC, Monsoon and Tropical Climate Agrometeorology, Natural Resource Data Management Scheme, Program Advisory Committee on the Earth Science, R&D Project Scheme. Thereafter, Science and Engineering Research Council, Science and Society Program, Seismology Program, State Science and Technology Program, Technology Development Program, and then Women Scientist Scheme Program. And in the DST, there are so many programs in which the people from the science field and the arts field and social science field can coordinate to each other and can apply. The best example is the NRDMS scheme. The NRDMS scheme aims to societal development, societal service or societal benefit by the help of the scientific applications. So the researchers from the field of the science and arts can collaborate to each other and thereafter can apply to this NRDS scheme. And not only to the NRDS scheme, even in the science and society program, the researchers from the field of the science and arts can collaborate and they can apply. There are so many research, health research-based scientific program launched by the DST. And in the health and science, again, the social science people can coordinate with the biological science people, and thereafter they can apply to the same scheme. So DST or the DBT or CSIR are not limited to the science people only. They are open for the arts and humanities people. These all programs are target oriented. So to achieve the target, the people of the social science, researchers of the social science and researchers of the natural science should collaborate to each other, and thereafter they should apply. The next one important is the Women Scientist Scheme. The Women Scientist Scheme is very good scheme for the female candidate having any break in the career. If they have any break in the career of 1 or 2 years, they can enjoy up to the 55-year age. They can apply in this scheme and they can enjoy this scheme. And they can do better scientific work up to the 55 years of the age without getting any job if they have any break in their career in the first early phase of the life. The next one please. Okay, this is the format. So overlook the format. Go ahead. Now, Indian Council of Social Science Research. This is again devoted for the social scientist. But again, there is a scope for the people of the science also. If you are doing research work in collaboration of the social scientist and the natural scientist. Every year, they are inviting applications of social science like the economics, commerce, management, business administration, sociology, anthropology, social work, demography, gender studies. political science, international relations, geography, public administration and psychology, education, criminology, and other linguistics and law, etc. So this is one of the big platform for the people of the social science and the literatures. Every year they are inviting applications. We have to visit the site of the Indian Council of the Social Science Research, and you can apply in this field. Again, you can coordinate with the science people also if your work is related with the social science and scientific need. Next one. So this is the scheme. Next one. Next, please. Okay, this is the same thing. Next, please. And this is the pro forma, and pro forma to apply the proposal, and this is also part of the pro forma. Again, move ahead. This is part of the pro forma. Move ahead. Go ahead. Okay, next. Now, Department of Biotechnology. As its name indicates, it seems that this is exclusive for the biotechnology. But no, this is not true. The Department of Biotechnology is primarily open for the researchers from all the fields. There are a lot of scopes for the people of the chemistry, people of the physics, people of the botany, zoology, from all the natural sciences. And there are also scopes for the researchers of social science and other fields. So as its name indicates, Department of Biotechnology. Department of Biotechnology is a part of the Ministry of the Science and Technology, but it is not dedicated to biotechnology only. This department of Government of India is very actively working in these days. And I feel this is very active components of the Ministry of Science and Technology, and regularly inviting applications from the different field of the science. There are so many programs like the Basic Research Program, Medical Biotechnology Program, Food and Nutrition Program, Bioenergy Program, Bioresource and Environment Program, Agricultural Biotechnology, Animal Biotechnology, Aquaculture and Marine Biotechnology, Theoretical and Computational Biotechnology, International Collaborations, Human Resource Development. And besides these basic programs, they are also inviting applications through different schemes like the Center of Excellence and Innovation in Biotechnology, Research Resource Service and Facilities and Platform, Societal Development, Biotech Park and Incubation, Rapid Grant for the Young Investigators, Blue Grant, a special program for Northeastern region, and Women Scientist Scheme, separate Women Scientist Scheme from the DST. The major Women Scientist Scheme is being launched by the DST, Department of Science and Technology, and there is one separate Women Scientist Scheme for of the DBT, Department of Biotechnology also. The next one. Next slide, please. Okay. You can apply to develop your college categories. In the category 1, Center of Excellence in Biotechnology with a specific thematic focus that can involve single or multiple institutions, but it should be with some thematic focus. Like in our Chhattisgarh, the monogenetic diseases are abundantly found in our society. So any college or any university can apply for that monogenetic disease investigations under category 1. Under category 2, outstanding scientist research program, in meaning it provides long-term R&D support to any individual outstanding investigators of high scientific calibers with publications and with the patents. If you have good number of publications, good number of citation index, good number of H index, then you can apply for long-term support under this category 2. And again, this is not dedicated to the people of the biotechnology only. This is open for all the scientific fields. Suppose ribosome is one of the cell organelle responsible for the synthesis of protein. And protein is purely a chemical compound, assembly of the amino acid by the help of the peptide bond. So any people, any researchers from the field of the chemistry with expertise in this field wants to apply, they can apply. in the Department of Biotechnology also. Category 3, institutional program support. To both single institutional program as well as a multi-institutional program, either in the form of your own institutions alone, or you can coordinate with so many other institutions, and then you can apply for the development of your institution under category 3. If you have multi investigators and you are performing multi-dimensional research work, then you can apply under category 3, and you can develop. Please move slide. Yes. Another is the research resource, service facilities and platform. Okay, DBT providing support for different scientific activities besides the innovation center, like a grant support enable research institution or universities to establish state-of-the-art instruments. Facilities like the animal house generating scientific knowledge through basic and advanced R&D, validate and disseminate the research outcome like the GM plant, vaccines, diagnosis, maintaining genetics stock, repository. For example, our Chhattisgarh state is being recognized as a herbal state. There are a large number of the traditional healers doing practice in our society, but still we do not have good database for their IPR expertise. If you want to develop IPR database of our traditional healer, you can apply in this field. What is GM plant, genetically modified plant? This is the need of the hour. As soon as the temperature will increase, the GM plant investigation in the field of the GM plant will be bindings for us. In our country, presently, as per our knowledge, as per my knowledge, nearly 35 genetically modified crops have been developed. And most of the genetically modified plants are under review by the government of India since last 20 years, 15 to 20 years. What is the problem? The society is not ready to accept the genetically modified crop. So there is need of social scientists just to convince the people or to transfer the information regarding need and benefits of these plants. So again, in this field regarding genetically modified field of the genetically modified crop, you can we have lot of traditional IPR related with the traditional healers. We can modify that plant for better yield, for better improvement. Suppose any one medicinal plant is giving one particular compounds, and the quantity of the compound is not viable at commercial point of view, then we can genetically enhance the production of the compound, and we can then develop one consortium in our state under this scheme. So this is need of the hour. The Rubisco gene, there is one gene, the Rubisco gene, which is found in the plant, responsible for the photosynthesis. Scientists are trying to modify the Rubisco gene to meet the challenges of the 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius increase in the temperature, climatic atmospheric temperature, because the increasing temperature is inhibiting the activities of Rubisco gene and Rubisco activase enzymes being performed. Rubisco gene and Rubisco activase, this is purely chemical compound. These are the enzyme. Rubisco activate is the enzyme. In our Chhattisgarh, the temperature is very high, up to the 48 degrees Celsius we are feeling. And not only temperature, the ultraviolet radiation, intensity of the ultraviolet radiation is also very high. So Rubisco gene expression and Rubisco, next one. Now for the societal development, DBT inviting applications every year with many research proposals which are directly dedicated to the societal development. To maintain the objectives of the program is to promote the use of biotechnological process and tool of the benefit of disadvantaged section of the society comprising women. rural population, SC and ST and weaker section. The program aims to create platform for the self-employment generation among the population and diffusion of the proven and field-tested technologies through the demonstration, training, and extension activities. So if you have to apply the biotechnological tool, biotechnological tool does not mean exclusively the genetic manipulations. It means any scientific manipulations which can be beneficial for the society. Just take one example. We are bound to replace the polythene. How we can bound to replace the polythene? Definitely, we should develop the biologically degradable poly bags. And how we can develop the biologically degradable poly bags? By developing polylactic acid complexes. This is possible. This is not impossible. If we can develop a small technology for the lactic acid polymers, for the polymers of the polylactic acid, then it may replace the plastics, and we may transfer this technology to the weaker section of our SC and ST community or the rural community of our society. It may generate the employment, and besides, it will also be helpful for the correction of our environment. And for such type of proposal, DBT is ready to support anyone. Not only for the people of the biotechnology, from the discipline of the biotechnology, they are supporting all the peoples coming from any discipline, but the work should be dedicated to the benefit of the society. The next one, their main focus are the agriculture and allied sector, health, nutrition and sanitation, and others. Okay, and others, value chain and post-harvest, and other things. Then the biotechnology park and incubators in India. Yes, in our country, the biotechnology park and incubators is already functional, and it is working very nicely, vigorously. And the government of India has already developed the biotechnology park and incubation center. If you have any major R&D achievement, you can approach to the biotechnology park and incubator center in India. Definitely, they will link your work with the industry, and they will facilitate you any kinds of the help which are required by the researchers. Next one. Next one. Oh, one next grant is the GLUE grant. GLUE grant. This is also very important for our state, for the state of our Chhattisgarh. The scheme has been designed to link clinical science departments through inter-institutional linkage with basic science institute and universities department with the medical or veterinary school department. They are providing a support for the linking of the different institutions, particularly for the clinical science investigation for our society, meaning society of our Chhattisgarh state. In our Chhattisgarh state, so many kinds of the monogenic diseases prevailing, like the sickle cell anemia or the thalassemia or glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency or the Duffy gene deficiency, even the modifications in the hemoglobin gene by the intuition of the Plasmodium falciparum. Some of our tribal populations have already disappeared, and some are on the verge of extinction. So many tribal populations are suffering from different kinds of the health problem, like the malnutrition and anthropometric deformities and STD, sexually transmitted disease, nutritional deformities, and other problems. So there is a need of the clinical investigations, and under this scheme, the researchers from this different field, like the biological science, the social science, chemical science, physical science, and the medical science can coordinate to each other. And then you can apply to DBT for this grant. Definitely, it will be very helpful for our state. Just I want to draw the attention of our new investigator, new researchers towards this scheme of the DBT. It may be helpful for us, for the PhD scholars also. The next one. They are also providing support for the workshop and other activities. Yes, now there is a special attention of the government of India for the northeast part of the northeastern part of the country, northeast region, like the Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, and Tripura. the government of India giving immense fund to the northeastern region to support the agricultural, environmental, medical research activities. And there is one special scheme, R&D twinning program. Under this scheme, under R&D twinning program, even you can apply for the research in the northeastern part of the country. Just you have to collaborate with one researchers of the northeast states like the Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, and Tripura. After an interval of 2 years, the DBT inviting applications. Just to develop one proposal, you can develop one proposal in the field of the agriculture, environment, or medical science, or any other societal problem, even in the field of the silk culture, lag culture, and apiculture, because the silk culture, lag culture, apiculture is existing in our state, and this is very important entrepreneurship part in the northeastern part of the country. And government of India on priority basis releasing support to the researchers of the northeastern part of the country. So definitely we should pay special attention on this program, especially for the program of the twinning program with any regions. Okay, next one. Next one. Now, Women Scientist Scheme of the DBT. Go back. One Women Scientist Scheme was sponsored, being sponsored by the Department of Science and Technology. But this is another Women Scientist Scheme granted by the DBT, Department of Biotechnology. Both are the different program. In the DBT Women Scientist Scheme, the main aim and objectives of the DBT is to enhance the participations of women scientists in biotechnology research. The Department of Biotechnology launched the Biotechnology Career Advancement and Reorientation Program. Again, this program is applicable for the up to the age of the 55 years. And in this program, you can take a good benefit of the research funds and research scholarship also up more than it is near about the 55,000 per month, even more than the 55,000 per month. And they are giving good amount, good volume of the research fund to support your research need, like the infrastructure, instrumentation, Pebble grant, everything. So definitely the female candidates should pay attention for the DBT Women Scientist Scheme also. Normally they are paying attention for the DST Women Scientist Scheme, but I want to draw your attention for the DBT Women Scientist Scheme also. This is the proposal. Now, not only DBT, DST, DBT, and all this, even the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research or ICMR, all are inviting your applications through the e-promise scheme. Slight nomenclature difference is there, but for the DBT it is e-promise scheme. I would like to suggest to all the researchers, first you should go through this e-promise proforma, and first you have to register yourself in the e-promise site, and thereafter go through all the points given in this proforma and prepare your scheme, prepare your proposal as per the need of this proforma, because this is not easy. Sometimes suddenly it demands few parameters, and they demands you have to submit any new information within 15 minutes or 10 minutes. So within 15 or 10 minutes you have to prepare, you have to write, and you have to submit. But most of the part in this, you can prepare before applying to this scheme, but you should be ready for certain information. Sometimes they are demanding certain queries. So move ahead. Okay, this is the objectives. This is the key features of this scheme. Equity, opportunity for the excellence in science. Just to cover the researchers from all sections of the society, just to give benefits the schedule and under this scheme the community and other backward class members of our society, they can take benefits of up to the grants of to develop their research lab and other research activities. So this is very good scheme for the SC/ST community researchers. Definitely they should apply under this scheme of the SERB. Next one. Okay. In the SERB, there is also another important program, the Ayurvedic biology program. Again, this program is beneficial for the researchers of our state, because in Ayurvedic biology program, there is need of characterization and identification of the secondary metabolite from the plant. There is need of the evaluations of influence of the compound of the medicinal plant on our immunological tools. Like, then you can apply under this scheme, and SERB will help you to investigate the secondary metabolite available or the compound available in the plant, and to understand how the compound is acting on our biological system, and how this compound may be exploited for the development of the drug and drug designing and other process. So if any researcher is working under this field, they should apply under this scheme. Next one. Yes, they are also supporting the mathematical research program, and under this scheme they are providing research grant of rupees 2 lakhs per schemes also. And under different schemes you can apply for the purchase of different softwares. The softwares are very costly for the mathematical computation or the statistical computations. But under these specific schemes, the matrix, you can apply for 2 lakhs rupees per annum support for the 3 years. The next one. Again, next, move ahead. Yes, institutional travel support. Not only SERB, but DST, DBT, ICMR, CSIR, all the scientific bodies, even the Council of Social Science, all the scientific bodies are supporting researchers for travel grant to the foreign country, or even inside the country also. They are supporting program dedicated to the workshop or symposia, seminar, colloquium, and other activities. If you are proposing your proposal, evaluating application, releasing grants. So if you are planning to visit foreign country, particularly for any to participate in any symposia, seminar, and other activities, you can apply directly to the DST, DBT, CSIR, UGC, and other funding agencies. All funding agencies are supporting your travel grant and registration cost and etc. Next, assistance to professional bodies and so on. Next, please. Yes, there is one important, the startup grant scheme. Fortunately, in our Chhattisgarh state, so many in the SERB after 2015 prepare one proposal and try to determine your line. Member genetic analysis, even the bioremedy process, and even the alcohol production, other roles. You should identify your field. This assessment is only for the youngers, not for the senior. First, you identify your specific field. in something in his field, you can develop your laboratory and you can mobilize your resources and determine your line of research. This is first requisite, first requirement. Then you prepare, go through the immense literature, lot of literature, go through, analyze the literature, and thereafter develop one research proposal. Try to publish 1 or 2, 3 research publications, and with the support of research publications, prepare your research proposal and then submit to either the DST or the sub and any other funding agency for the grant. They will evaluate you, and definitely after evaluations, they will support you. And through this grant, you can develop your own research laboratory. It is very essential to develop your own research laboratory. Definitely we are, but please take care. Before completion of 2 years, you should apply under this scheme. Another important point, definitely we should develop research, we should publish, we should create research publications, but experience, then you can more research paper, there is no problem. But in early phase of the life, please determine yourself to publish 1 or 2 publications within 1 year, either in the Scopus or in the Web of Science or in the UGC cared list. Then through, on the basis of that very research paper, prepare your own research proposal and then apply to the funding agencies. So this is my submission. Besides this, I would like to suggest the Council of Science and Technology is only up to the 5 lakhs. And since proposal, and they are inviting research proposal from different fields, from the field of the arts, science, commerce, and other scientific, other domain of the knowledge. But one of the scholars is working in our lab, although she is appointed in the Shankaracharya college, but she is working in our lab. And I'm surprised that the Planning Commission of our Chhattisgarh state has given only 4-month time to the candidate for completion of the research proposal. I do not understand that how any researchers can complete the work within only 4 minutes, 4 months. So there are some drawbacks also, but in beginning stage, you can apply in the Planning Commission of the Chhattisgarh state also. So this is final submission. There are a lot of funding agencies, but it's also true that in our country at present, the flow of the research grant is. I agree that the total GDP of trillion, but definitely government of India should increase just जो है उसी में हमें अपने को देखना है, उसी में हमें सर्च करना है, कहीं फाइनली हमें वहां से लाना है। और एक और मेरा इम्पोर्टेंट सबमिशन है कि आप मायूस मत होइए, फील कीजिएगा कि आप कई जगह अप्लाई किए और नहीं हुआ। 3-4 जगह आपने अप्लाई किया और आपका नहीं हुआ। ये आप जब हम लोग की एज में आ जाइएगा, हम लोग की एज से भी ज्यादा सीनियर हो जाएगा, तब भी आप फील कीजिएगा। एवरी ईयर यू आर अप्लाइंग फॉर 4-5 applying to the 4-5 research fund code. Sometime you are getting one or sometime not even one. So जब 3-4-5 में हम अप्लाई करते हैं और हमें कोई सपोर्ट कहीं से नहीं मिलता है, थोड़ी मायूसी होती है, थोड़ी क्या अच्छे से मायूसी होती है। उनके अंतिम बात यही होने वाला है, वो बात कभी नहीं आएगा कि मैं डिटरमाइन कर दिया और हमें मिल गया। तो अपने आप को साइकोलॉजिकली इस चीज से बचा कर रखना कि हमारा बार बार फेल हो जा रहा है, हम अप्लाई कर रहे हैं बार बार। 10 रिसर्च मेजर रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट मैंने अब तक कंप्लीट किया है, सबका किया है, डीएसटी, डीबीटी, यूजीसी सबका किया है। अभी भी एक साउथ कोरिया के साथ रनिंग है, बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट है वो भी। बट आज भी मेरा पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस यही है, एवरी ईयर मैं मिनिमम 4 रिसर्च प्रपोजल सबमिट करता हूँ। और ऐसा भी होता है कि किसी साल एक भी नहीं मिला, किसी साल मिला तो एक मिला। इतने अप्लाई करके जाकर रखिएगा। इसको आप ये मत मान लीजिएगा कि नहीं मिलता है, फेवरेट favoritism से मिलता है, so depression हो रहा है. No, at any cost you have to overcome the depression, you have to overcome the criticism. Criticism is one of the parameter for saying good. If हर कोई आपको बोल रहा है बहुत अच्छा है, बहुत प्यारा है, बहुत अच्छा है, you are not performing good. So this is one parameter of the self-assessment. So this is my final submission on the basis of my experience. Thank you for giving me time and giving me opportunity to share my views with you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for the very informative lectures on the research funding agency. You have accurately presented the data of research funding and agencies not only of India but from foreign also. You have mentioned the number of research agencies, funding agencies for science and technology, agriculture, mathematics, and humanities and social science, which are very important to be known for research scholars. Once again, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Now I may request to participants to ask questions if anyone has.
Yes.
Participants have any questions?
Sir, I just want to ask that the sites which you just by clicking to that URL, the whole format will be
Yes.
there. We can find it easily, no?
Yes, on every site, all the formats are available. Just go and click the Department of Science and Technology, DST, Government of India, DST only. And it will reflect all the schemes, all the proposal, even formats are available. Just we have extracted from the sites only. So every informations are easily accessible and easily available to their respective sites. Besides, concerned ministries are also giving, inviting applications for the research support, like the Ministry of the Environment and Forest and Ministry of the Social Science, Ministry of the Tribal Welfare. All the ministries are inviting applications for support of the research fund. So there should be one tendency to click all the relevant sites one time in a week, at least one time in a week. This is my practice. It is in my practice to click all the relevant sites which is related to me at least one time in a week. So you just go click and look on the related sites. All informations are available. Nothing is hidden.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So may I leave now?
Sir, I wanted to ask a question.
Yes.
Sir, how to be facilitated with the postdoctoral fellowship in humanities and social science?
Yes.
And what are its criteria?
Postdoctoral fellowship in the humanities and social science, UGC, every year UGC is inviting Syama Prasad Mukherjee fellowship and other fellowships in the UGC, through the UGC. And besides this, CSIR also inviting applications of giving different kinds of postdoctoral fellowship. In foreign country, the eminent scientists